a knife through my chest. Fang Qing. Red hair, sweet smile. I would have done anything for her. She looked at my supplies and said they would only last us 3 days. Then she grinned and told me to hand everything over to her and her real boyfriend, Chen Hao. He had been with her the whole time. She held the bloody knife, and he held my card. That card was my only power in this broken world, and now it was his. He kicked me down. I grabbed at his leg, too weak to fight back. Idiot, he called me, still smiling. Why? I screamed. I pressed my hand over the wound. The blood would not stop. I had given them everything. For a whole year, Fang Qing stayed by my side. She said the entire thing was an act. She pinched her nose. She said being near me made her sick. I reached for the wall. My bloody hands slid down the surface. Then I was outside, flat on the cracked earth. I could not stand. Above me, the sun burned without mercy. The world had already ended. Only bones and monsters were left. Then I heard the click of boots on stone. A red umbrella appeared above me, blocking the light. I looked up with what little strength I had left. Shuao, my neighbor. We had barely ever spoken. She knelt beside me. I'm sorry, Lin Chuan, she said. I cannot save you, but I will bury you, so the creatures outside cannot reach your body. It is all I can do. I sat against the wall, bleeding out, and thought about my life. I gave them my whole heart, and the only person who showed me any kindness was a neighbor I barely knew. Then everything went white. I opened my eyes. I was on a couch. Clean shirt. No wound. No blood. I was alive. Somehow I had gone back in time. 1 week before the end of the world. In my first life, the extreme heat came without warning. It dried the rivers, cracked the roads, and turned every city to dust. Billions of people had nothing. The whole world fell apart. But I had something nobody else did. A game backpack that could pull virtual items into reality. When I first used it, the energy hit me like a wall. Light exploded in every direction. The system was real. Inside the backpack were rows of digital chests. Each one could hold real supplies. Food, water, medicine, tools. I used them to survive. Day by day, barely holding on. And because I was a fool, I shared my food with Fang Qing and Chen Hao. They thanked me with a knife in the chest, and I died in the dirt with nothing left. Fang Qing, Chen Hao, I will pay back every single drop of blood. I looked at the red card in my hand. Last time I never learned to use it properly. This time I had 7 days. 7 days to fill this villa with everything I needed to survive. I focused my mind. The backpack system lit up behind my eyes. Each slot could stack up to 999 of the same item. The game had weapons, medicine, and gear. But game items alone were not enough. I needed real-world supplies too, which meant I needed money first, and real weapons to keep people away from what was mine. I pulled a rifle straight out of the game. It appeared on my table, solid and heavy. I smiled. This changed everything. Nobody would touch my supplies again. I tested the grip. The weight was perfect. A real gun from a virtual world. 4 days until the end. Time to spend. First stop, a high-end clothing store. I needed survival gear. Everything from the entrance to the elevator, I told the clerk. Plus 3 rows of outdoor equipment. Hiking boots, thermal jackets, waterproof bags. Every shelf. The clerk stared at me. I just smiled. She called her manager. He came with a calculator. I punched in my code at the register. Next, a luxury food shop. Shelves stacked from floor to ceiling. This shelf, that shelf, and that one, I said. Empty them all. The woman paused. Sir, the limited mineral water is 500 yuan per bottle. I looked at the full shelf. Dozens of bottles in a perfect row. The whole row, I said. Her mouth fell open. Then the Wagyu beef. 30,000 yuan per steak. The man beside the display could not believe it. At the wine section, a woman showed me the 1945 Romanée Conti, 100,000 yuan each, 12 bottles on the shelf. The staff trailed behind me. The water and beef alone were already past 5 million. The man with the calculator stopped counting and just stared. The wine woman grabbed her radio. He is going to empty the warehouse, she said. How much stock do you have left in storage? I asked. I will take all of it, I said. She smiled and called an emergency notice through the store. The announcement went out over every speaker in the building. Workers in the warehouse stopped everything and started counting. The storage room was packed with boxes from floor to ceiling. I placed my card on the machine without a second thought. The receipt kept printing. It did not stop. I walked out. Both managers bowed as I passed. Outside, I checked my phone. 2 days left. My supplies were almost ready. I clenched my fist. I could still feel the blade. Those 2 smiling faces. They had taken everything from me once. The blood on my shirt. The cold look in her eyes while I bled. Never again. This life, I would survive. Then a voice called out behind me. Hey Lin Chuan, what did you buy? It was Chen Hao. Fang Qing stood right beside him. I turned away without a word. A worker handed me the first box. Let them watch. They opened one of my boxes. Instant noodles and water bottles spilled out onto the ground. Chen Hao laughed. Fang Qing covered her mouth. This is all you got, he said, and you tried to hide it from us? I turned and looked at both of them. They stared at me like I was something to pity. Lin Chuan, Fang Qing said with a wide smile. Are you restocking some homeless shelter? Cheap water and cup noodles? I bent down and started picking everything up. The old worker beside me helped without a word. Supermarket clearance sale, right? Chen Hao said behind my back. Fang Qing pressed against his arm, grinning. 40 million in loans, she said, and you buy this garbage to fill your stomach. She touched her cheek and sighed. Lin Chuan, can you at least try to be somebody? I closed my eyes and smiled. 2 days. In 2 days, the world would end. The rivers would crack open. The forests would dry and split apart. And none of their money would save them. I looked at her designer bag. We'll see, I said. When that day comes, can that purse keep you alive? Or will the things you call trash save you first? I held the box against my chest and walked inside. In the storage room, I pulled out my checklist and a pen. 3,000 sets of clothing, all 4 seasons covered, 300 boxes of energy biscuits, 500 boxes of instant noodles, 5,000 cases of water. I checked off item after item. Red marks filled every line on the page. Almost finished. I lowered the pen and let myself breathe. Then I opened the game backpack. A blue screen lit up between my hands. Food, canned goods, bread, water, weapons, everything floated in front of me. I tapped the weapons section. 6 rifles sat in a grid, all fully loaded. Just the game items alone could keep me alive for 10 lifetimes. I looked at the shelves behind me. Every one of them was full. The end of the world was coming, and I was ready. The clock on the wall ticked forward. Not many hours left. I dropped onto the couch with my phone and leaned back. 5 minutes. The end was almost here. Sunlight poured through the glass. The pool sat still and blue outside. A perfect day. The last one like it. Across town, Fangqing sat on a couch. Chen Hao leaned close to her, one hand resting on her leg. His mother sat nearby and shook her head. "You really believe that poor kid's crazy talk?" she asked. She waved her hand. "The end of the world. I've lived 50 years. She picked through a handful of peanuts in her palm. "I've heard that kind of nonsense at least 80 times. Chen Hao turned to her. "Mom, we don't care about the end of the world," he said. The clock on the wall was almost at 12. His face split into a grin. "Once noon passes, his villa and everything inside belong to us." His mother's eyes went round. "That fool actually made that bet with you?" Earlier that day, Chen Hao had brought me to meet his cousin. The man walked in and Fangqing was on his arm before he said a word. "Cousin," Chen Hao said, putting a hand on my shoulder, "this is my good buddy Lin Chuan." Then he leaned in and said something I could not hear. That familiar smirk spread across his face. The cousin's eyes sharpened behind his glasses. He was already doing the math. "He has had some money trouble," Chen Hao said. "Wants to borrow a little." I stood beside him calm. The cousin stood up. His polished shoes clicked against the floor. I held up the red property certificate. "This is the deed for my villa," I said. "You know the area," I told him, holding the deed to my chest. He adjusted his sunglasses and studied me. "City center," he said. I held the deed out toward him. "Market price? Over 50 million. He took it from my hand and turned it over. Read every line. He stared at me through the smoke of his cigarette. "Sign the contract," he said. "Money in your account the same day." He raised one hand like it was nothing. "1 month to pay it back," he added. I kept my expression flat. He was not finished. I could see it in his eyes. "1 day late," he said, pulling the cigarette from his mouth, "and the interest goes up 30%. He placed the deed flat on the desk. "Can't pay it all? Then the house is mine." I signed without hesitating. In 2 days, this debt would mean nothing. Back at their apartment, Fangqing and Chen Hao watched the clock. 2 minutes to noon. His mother sat in her chair with her hands folded. "He'll learn what happens when you make stupid bets," she said. Fangqing's eyes were cold and steady. She was already thinking about which room she would take first. Night fell over the apartment buildings. The streets went quiet. Inside, a polished shoe stepped onto the wooden floor. Someone was getting ready to move. Chen Hao jumped to his feet. "That kid has no money and still pretends," he said. Fangqing pressed her palms together, excited. She smiled and tugged his sleeve. "No money and still lying to people," she said. "Let's go take the house right now," she said, pointing at the door. Chen Hao reached down and grabbed a metal bat. The 3 of them headed out together. Chen Hao rested the bat on his shoulder. "Today we throw him out of this neighborhood." The next morning, the sun hit the buildings harder than it should have. The 3 of them walked side by side, still smiling. They had no idea what was coming.